and welcome back to the third and final part of this video series on building a recruitment system inside of Scriptcase. We've done videos 1 and 2, so I'd encourage you to go back and watch those. And today we're going to build the job requisitions side of this. So that includes this grid and the items on this menu right here. And then when we're all done with that, we're going to put this all together in a nice menu and finalize some of the bells and whistles of the UI side of this. So let's go ahead and get started on this main grid right here. So we've got, some information about the different job postings and also a link to review the candidates. So here we are in the Scriptcase development environment, and these are all the applications we've created. We've got these different folders. We used a batch application creation to create all these, so you can go back and watch that. And these are the job requisition applications that we're going to need for this. So let's start with this grid. This is our main grid. We're going to copy this because we're going to have two versions of this. So I'm going to copy one to set aside to use later in this video. This is for searching the jobs. So I just copy it and named it. But let's go back. We'll use that later. Let's go back to our main requisitions grid, the original one here. And let's open that up for editing. Let's go ahead to edit fields and let's set our fields up. So we've got these different fields. Let's make sure we've got the right ones on screen here. So let's put position on there as well. We'll need that. And let's go ahead and hit save on that. So now we can set some of these to be lookups to show the actual names, descriptive values for our fields. So this is an integer, but we're going to change the lookup method to automatic. We've done this several times in the last two videos, so we should be familiar with it, but let's just go ahead and walk through these and get it all set up. So we choose our contacts table for this contacts field. The ID is the key field and description is shown on screen. We're going to do the same for status here. Create our select. This is going to be from the status table. Key and descriptive fields are set up there. And now urgency. And doing the same now for type. So setting up the query here. And then lastly, our position. So save that and do the same thing on position, this time pulling from the position table. And that's all set up. So now our fields should be set up to pull descriptive values from the requisite tables. Let's go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. Okay, so here's our grid, pretty basic grid, but we've got the correct contact values and position and type and everything, so that looks nice. Now let's go back to edit fields and let's move one of these around. Let's move position up further, closer to the contact there. That'll make it maybe a little bit more readable for this use case. And let's go ahead and save that. And then we're going to do something else. We're going to add another field on here that's going to have a link to review the candidates that are on there. So it's going to have actually the number of candidates that have applied for the job and a link to review them. So we go to new field here and we're going to put two new fields. Just like that. And one of them is going to be an integer because that's going to be the number of candidates that have applied for the job. So it's just going to be a plain number. We're going to name that num candidates like so. And we're going to use this in some code later on, so we want to make sure we name it correctly. And label it. And then review candidates is our next field. That's going to have our link in it. So let's label that. And now those fields are all set up and ready to use. Now we need to add some code that actually set values for these two fields. So we're going to go to events and then on record. And the onRecord event gets called every time a new record loads on this form. So for every row on here, let me copy some code in here. So we do a query first, and we select a count from the candidate submissions table. So this is a table that holds all the submissions for the candidates, and we link it based on that job or the requisition ID. So all the submissions for that job, execute the query, and then get that count value out of the result and assign it to our field right here. So we're using the curly braces and assigning it to our num candidates field. Then we're looking at that value, and if it's greater than 0, then we give it some text, review candidates. So that's going to be set equal to our review candidates field. Now let's run this, and we should see some values in there. Okay, so there's our two new fields with the number of candidates as well as the options to review the candidate. So there's no link there yet, but we'll add the link a little bit later. Before we can add the link, however, for that review candidates, we need to actually create the application that's going to be called. So let's get started with creating this on this text right here. So we're going to go back here to our applications, and we have this candidate submissions grid already created. So that's going to be the grid we use, but we're going to need to modify it a little bit. So let's start with our SQL. We need to limit it so it only looks at the candidate submissions for that one job. So we're going to put a where on this SQL query based on that requisition ID field right there. So I'm going to copy that field name. And I'm going to say where that field equals a variable that we're going to pass in. So we're putting it in the square brackets so that it's a Scriptcase variable that will get passed in. And make sure I name this correctly. And so that's the var rec ID. So that's going to limit our grid to just show records for that one job requisition. So our query is set up. Now let's go back to edit fields. And let's make sure this candidate ID is showing the candidate name instead of just the ID. So that's going to be a lookup method of automatic, just like we've done before. And we're going to choose from our candidate table right there and show the name on screen instead of the ID. And then we're going to do the same with status, but other than that, our fields should be pretty much set up. Choose automatic. And that's going to be our submission status table. So that's the status of this actual submission. Let's go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. So it's going to ask us for that requisition ID first. So there we go. Let's just enter one here. And there are the submissions for that one requisition, that one job requisition. So there's two of them here with the name, submission date, status ID, interview date, and interview address. Now we're going to add some more information up here in the header to show the recruiter associated with that and the job ID. So let's go to events here. And let's go to the onHeader event, and we need to get those values first. So let me copy some more code in. This will just make it a little bit easier for the recruiters using the system to know what jobs are associated with what recruiters and who those candidates that those recruiters have to handle are. So it's pulling the contact name from those two tables where the contact ID equals the contact ID from the contacts table and the requisitions table, and assigning C and R as aliases. It's getting that contact name out, and it's where the requisition ID equals our requisition ID passed into this. So I have to limit it based on both of those. And if it found values for that, we'll assign another variable with our recruiter name in it. Now let's go to the layout header footer area. And where the date normally appears, so over there on the right, we're going to put some other values in there. So we're going to say recruiter colon, and then we're going to put that recruiter name that we got out of the table. So copy that and put the square brackets around it. And then the job, and we'll just put the job ID right there. So the requisition ID, that variable that we passed in. And there we go. So that's going to appear where the date would normally appear. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we need to go to application here, actually not programming, application. And we need to make sure that second variable is set up as an output variable. So it won't ask for it when we run the application. So that's this one right here. The other one can stay as an input variable because we need that. And that way it just asks for the requisition ID, not the name. And up here we have some values now, but it's formatted kind of weird, and that's because I forgot one thing. It's actually set as a date value, so it's trying to format it as a date. Let's go back to header footer here, and let's change that value type from date to value, right there. And that'll stop it from trying to format it weirdly. And let's run this. And it should have a better value now. Enter our job ID. And there we go. So now we have our recruiter and our job. And let's put one space in there in between Alice and the recruiter there to make it a little bit more readable. Forgot to put that space in there. That makes it a little bit nicer. Let's save that and generate the code. So this should be all set up and ready to run. So we can link it now on our requisitions table on that text that we set up. So back to the requisitions table, we're going to put the link on that text. So on that field, we need to go to application links. And there's our form. We'll set that up in a second. Let's go to new link. This is going to be a field link on that field, the review candidate field. There it is. So that's that field right there. Let's click next on this and choose our grid candidate submissions. There's a form. Where's the grid? There's the grid right there. Select it and click next. Now it has those two variables that we had, but we only need the first one set. It's going to be a type of field, and the second one is going to be no value at all. And we just need to pass the requisition ID through for that record. And we could change some display settings here, but we're not too worried about that. Hit save, and then let's run this, and it should have a functioning link on it. There we go. So there is our functioning link, and we can click that, and it will take us through to our candidate submissions grid right there with our recruiter link to it. And we also have a back button to go back to our jobs grid there. We click on another one, and it'll take us through, and this is a different recruiter and different job this time. So there's a form set up with this, and we'll look at that in a second. But right now we need to set up the form for our requisitions table. So we have the grid set up. Now we need to set up this form right there. So we can click the edit button. So that's going to be the form requisitions right there. And it's not set up right yet. So let's go ahead and open that up. And let's start editing it. So let's go to edit fields here and get our field set up. So this is going to be done much like all the other applications that we've done many times, setting up the select values for these, pulling from the supporting tables for them. So I'm just going to kind of skip ahead until this is done so you don't have to sit and watch me do this again. Okay, so I've got all the fields set up. Now I need to create some blocks. So I'm here in layout blocks, and I'm going to create a block now to organize these fields into. So this is going to be kind of a general info field containing some of the general information about this job. And now another block, this time containing the description of the job. That's a bigger field, so we're going to put that in a block. And now this one is going to be the training, the required training for this job. So that's going to be education, and then also a description of that training. And we're going to display the title for that, and we're going to put two columns. Since we have two fields in there, we're going to organize it into two different columns there. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go back to field positioning here and order these fields in the correct blocks. So let's start with the info block. I'm going to have the contact ID, so that's the recruiter, target, fill date, status, urgency, type, position, requisition, title. All of those, that's going to be in the info block, so that's general info about it. And also the ID will go down in there. And let's see, there's a couple other items we're going to add down in there. That's going to be kind of our main block with a lot of different items down there. And then description, we're going to our description block that we set up. And then requirements and education go into the training block right there. So let's go ahead and run that. I think it's almost set up here. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so that's pretty close. We've got our different blocks set up like we would expect. And we can expand and collapse our training block like so. And it's set up in 2 different columns with the drop downs and everything working correctly like we would expect. We actually messed something up, so the contact should be up in that top block. And then the contract duration field should be down in the info block. So let's go ahead and move that down. Make sure it's in the right order there. And then let's move the contact field and the requisition ID field up into the top main block there. There we go. And you, of course, could change this however you wanted it. This is just one example of how to lay out this form, and hopefully it provides you some good ideas of what you can do with Scriptcase and layouts. So the layout is all set up pretty much. Now let's go back to blocks. And we're going to put some more columns in the info field since there's a lot of fields there. So let's start out with 3. And there we go. So we have 9 fields in there. So that splits it up nicely and evenly for our users to use. And maybe we can change the order of these some. So let's go back to edit fields and make it flow a little bit better. So let's put the title right up at the top, as well as the location. And then move position up all the way through the top there, since that's kind of the most important there. Put it right second after the title. And let's run this and see if it flows a little bit better. There we go. So that makes a little bit more sense, the workflow of it. So that'll be a little bit easier for our users to use. Now we need to assign the benefits to this job. So if you remember from the other videos, we have a benefits table, and that's all the benefits that are allowed in our system. But then we also have another table that links the benefits to this exact job requisition. So we need to set up a many-to-many relationship inside of Scriptcase. So one job can have many benefits associated with it. So let's go to many-to-many relationships right here and create a new relationship. And we're going to call this benefit. So this is going to put it as a field on screen. And assign the label. And then we need to choose our lookup statement here. We're going to choose our table for that. This is just like doing some selects like we've done before. It's going to pull from the benefits table, so we have the entire universe of benefits available to us. And the key is the ID, and the description is the benefit description. Click next on that. And it's just going through those items there in the left menu. So there's our query, like we'd expect. And then the display of our lookup. We can choose some different options here, and then the object type, instead of a select, we're actually going to do a checkbox so that they can select multiple values at once. We're going to start with 7 columns. That should be good. Click next on that, and then the link table. So this is the table that's actually going to be updated here. So that's going to be our requisition has benefits table. So that's going to be what benefits are actually associated with this exact requisition. And then we're going to link that based on the requisition ID, and the benefit ID will be set blank for now. We're going to use that later. So let's click next on that. And then the lookup field is going to be the benefit ID. So that's going to be the actual foreign key used for that. And then we have some UI settings that we could change if we wanted, and some help settings. We're not going to mess with those too much now. So now we can click finish. And we're all set up, and that should include our benefits there. So now let's put this in its own block. So we're going to go to edit fields here, and there is our benefits field right there. And we're going to create a separate block just for our benefits. So let's go back to blocks and create new block there. This one's going to be our benefits block. make sure it's spelled correctly, and click Create. So now that block is created, we don't want to display the title, so let's go back to Edit Fields and put our Benefits field inside of our Benefits block like so. So now let's run this, and our benefits side of this should be all set up, and that means our form should be set up as well. Okay, so there is our new benefits area, and we have all the different benefits available to us, and the ones that are legitimate for that job are checked. So we can check new ones if we wanted to edit it, and save those, and that would save new records in our Requisition Has Benefits table. So that form is all set up and ready to be connected to that grid, which it already is in our application links. So let's go ahead and run our grid. And we've got all of our links for review candidates and also our edit link going to our edit form like so. So now let's go ahead and clean our environment up here, make this look a little bit nicer so that we can get started on the next part of this. So we've got all these tables here. Now we need to go to our search jobs table here. So this is a copy of our requisitions table that we set up before, and this is going to be for candidates to go and search for jobs and apply for them. So let's go ahead and get our field set up on screen. And go ahead and save that. These are the fields we want here. And now we need to set up some lookup values. And I'm going to do the same thing since you've seen me do this several times now. I'm just going to skip ahead a bit. Alright, so here is our form all set up with the correct field values and ready to go. So now let's go to Application Links, and we need to get rid of that Edit button. We don't need that. This is just for searching, so we're not going to allow our candidates to edit jobs. And let's save that. And now let's add another field over here to allow our candidates to actually apply for the job. So let's go to New Field. Just one new field, and we're going to name this candidate. It's just going to be a text type. So let's name it and label it like so. And we're going to need to use some code to actually assign a value to this field. But before we can do that, we first need to create the application that's going to let the candidates apply for that job. So we need to create a blank application actually that's just going to include some code to insert into our candidate submissions table. So we're going to go to New Application here. And choose a blank application. This is just going to run some basic code. So let's make sure I name it correctly. Name it like so and click Create. Okay, and here is our place to put some code, and I'm going to copy that in. So we start with some JavaScript echoing out. We'll come back to that in a second. We're going to look at our user group. So that is the user group that's saved when the user logs in. If it's 2, that means it's a candidate. Anything else means they can't apply, so we just say this option is not available if it's not a candidate trying to apply to this job. And that's going to be inside of an A tag with the OK text, and when they click that, it's going to run our function, our JavaScript function here, return and refresh. So that's going to reload the page and also remove anything that is showing that. So this is going to be displayed in a modal, so it'll just remove that modal and reload the grid that it was called from. If it is a candidate, then we're going to set up a date, a formatted date, and run this insert query into candidate submissions with the job ID, the candidate ID, and the submission date, as well as the status. We're going to use these variables that are passed through from the calling application, as well as the date formatted correctly with protections. And then the status is going to be 1. That's our beginning status. We'll execute that query, and then we'll call some other text here saying it was successfully submitted with an OK button, again calling our return and refresh function. So let's go ahead and generate the code for that. And now we can create the code to put the link in place. So this is going to be on our search grid application in events on the on record, just like we did on the requisitions grid. But we need to first check if the candidate has already applied. So that's mostly what this code is for. We're pulling from our candidate submissions table and limiting it based on the requisition ID and the candidate ID. So if we find that, that means the candidate has already applied for the job. And so now we just need to assign that some text that says it's already applied, along with a little font awesome icon with a check mark to make it look nice. Otherwise, if they haven't applied, we'll echo out some similar text that says apply now with an upload icon, font awesome icon. And then we're going to create a dynamic link on that candidate field right there. That's going to go to our blank submit candidate application. That's the one we created there with those variables set. So the requisition ID, that's going to be that field, and the candidate ID as well. That's going to come from our user ID variable set at login. It's going to be a modal link, and then we set the dimensions for that modal as well. So let's go ahead and run this, and it should work. We're not logged in fully, so it won't completely work, but we can set a user ID and then click apply now on one of these. And it doesn't see that we're a candidate, so it'll actually pop up something that says this option is not available. But that should work, so we click OK, and it's going to reload the grid and close that modal out, like so. So now, let's add these items to our menu. So here's our menu application. Let's open that up for editing. We've added all the other menu items at this point. Now we just need to add our jobs requisitions side of this. So we're going to add a menu item down underneath companies, and this one's going to be called employees. So I'm going to insert that over so it's a main menu item. Name it employees. That's not going to be linked to anything because we're going to link some child elements to it. Let's add something underneath it now. And this is just going to list our jobs. That's just going to go to our grid requisitions grid, our main one there. And now we're going to add another menu item. This is going to be the post a job, so that's going to go to our form again. But we're going to do something special with this in just a second. So let's choose our form requisitions like so, and click import. And then one more to search for our job. So that's our search grid. So let me link that here. That's going to be our grid search jobs. So let me find that here. There it is. And click import on that and name it search jobs. Like so. Let's go ahead and run this, and this will generate the code here. Actually, I'm not logged in, so I need to log in first since we have our security system set up. So let's go back and run our login application here and log in first so we can see how this looks. Log in, let me get rid of that. And here is our new employees option added on the menu here. Let me wait for it to load here. Okay, so there's our employee option. If we click one of these, let's click post a job. You can see it's putting it in edit mode here, and we want it to be in add mode. So if we click add new, they would take us to add new, but we want that to be the default when we click that option on the menu. So to do that, we need to first get the item ID for that menu item option. So if we go to post job here, there's our item ID. So it's item 29. Then we need to go to on execute that event there. So that gets called every time a menu item is clicked. And we can look at and see what menu item was clicked using a variable that Scriptcase gives us. So we put it in the curly braces, and that's sc_menu_item. And we need to check and see if it equals our item 29. So that means that list job item was clicked. Put that inside of an if. And if it was, then we need to edit the configuration of that application. So that's form TB requisition. The start is going to be new. So it's going to force it into new mode. Let's run this. And let's go ahead and log in now. We generated the code. Now let's log in. And here's our menu loading here. There we go. And now let's try and list a job and see if it forces it into an add new mode. And there we go. So now we're in an add new mode for our job form. So we could add a new job like so, and then we'd be on our way. So now that's all set up, the job requisition side of this. Now let's add some paint and chrome and make this UI look even nicer. So let's start with our login application first. Let's go ahead and edit that. And we can make this look pretty close to what we saw the first time. And I'm going to do that with templates because I want to show you some of what we can do with templates. So right now we're using the login for template, and that's in our external library. So let's go to Tools, External Libraries there. There's our samples there. That's the one it's in, but we can't edit it. We need to copy it. So we click Save As. I'm just going to name it Samples 2 and set the scope to Project. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, there's our Samples 2 library. We need to click Use Library. It's going to reload the form here. And then we just need to click Save the project libraries. The data has been saved. Now we can edit that library. So we're going to go into the login folder, and then our login for, there's the template we're using for our login. So if we click that, we can view the code for that. And there's a lot here, but we actually need to focus in on this login4.css file right here. So this is the CSS file for this. It's in the CSS folder and named login4. So let's go and look at that. So let's close this out, go to our CSS folder here, and login4 CSS. There it is. And there's a lot of CSS here. You could edit all this, but we're concerned about this background image right here. So that's in our image folder, and we're going to change that to something else. So let's go up one folder and then into our image folder there. And there's the image that's currently being used. Let's upload a new one here. I've got one on my computer that's going to look nice for this. There's our background image. That's kind of like the one we saw in the final product demo. Let's copy that name. We're going to use that and just click OK. And now let's go back to our CSS file and put that name in place right there. So back into the CSS folder and login4.css. And let's copy our name right there. Get rid of our extra file extension there. And that should be set up. Now we need to edit just one more element. So this image is kind of centered over on the left side of this. So we're going to put a left margin on our main login area. So that's this card class. We're going to push it over 75%. So the left 2/4 of the screen are going to be left mainly blank, or 3/4 of the screen are going to be left blank for our image. And now we just need to choose the template that we created here. So instead of the Scriptcase area, we're going to choose our project scope. Go down and choose our library there. Let's open that up. And then into the login folder. And then login4. So that should be all set up with our login4 option. Let's run this. And it should look a lot nicer now. So there we go. So there's our background image, and we bumped our login area over to the right. So I hope you can see a lot of what we can do with templates. Now we just need to edit these links to add a new candidate and a new recruiter. So we need to go to Fields, Links right here. And this is just a select. So we're going to change the text, the label for this first option to be New Candidate. And then we need to link it to our new candidate form that we created in part 2 of this video series. So add candidate right there. And click Update to update that option. And do the same for new recruiter. So edit the label. And then link it to our new contact form right there. We also created that in video 2 of the series. Click Update on that, and we should be all set up. Let's go ahead and run this. So we should have our link set up and the text set up differently. There we go. So we have new candidate and new recruiter instead of new user and change password. Now let's log in, and we're going to focus on the menu next. So there's a lot we can do with this menu, and there's a lot we're going to do with this menu. We're going to set the default application for this opening area here on the menu. So to do that, we need to open our menu application again to edit that. And we need to go to Settings here on the left and scroll down to the bottom, and we have our default application. Right now it's blank. Let's choose one application, and then we can choose the application we want it to be linked to. So that's going to be our grid Requisitions application. You might remember that's what we had in our final product demo. So we just choose grid Requisitions and import that. Let's go ahead and run that, and we're not logged in here. So we need to log in first. So the code is generated now. Now let's go to our login application and log in again so we can see how that looks. Simply log in here, type in the correct password. And there is our grid requisitions loading as the default initial application right there. Now we need to add some icons up here in the top menu. We're going to use Font Awesome icons. So let's go back to menu, click menu items here. And for each of those main items, we're going to add some Font Awesome icons. So we need to go to display and choose the Font Awesome selection there. And so right now it's a cog. If we click this, we can search for some different ones. So let's find one that looks like a briefcase. There's one. That'll kind of work for candidates. Let's hit save on that and go on to the next option here. So that's going to be companies. So candidates has the briefcase set right there. Let's go to companies now. Choose our Font Awesome display. And let's search for something that looks like a building. Okay, there's a building looking icon right there. And then let's go to employees. Choose Font Awesome again. And let's just search for employee and see if we can find something. There's lots of different Font Awesome icons here. That one kind of looks like a little person there. And then system, choose Font Awesome, and that one's just going to be a cog, like it's already set there. That works for system, so we could try and find something else here, but cog is actually going to serve our purposes pretty good. So now, let's go ahead and run this, and we're not logged in yet, so it's not going to work. So now the code is generated. Now let's log in and actually make it work. Log in correctly. And there are our different icons. It makes it look a little bit nicer and more professional. Now we need to add some more items onto this menu, including a logo and some informational text. So that's going to be up here on this top menu item, and that's going to involve editing the menu structure itself so that some of the area is designated for some different elements. So let's go back to our menu here. And we're back in our menu. We need to go to layout, menu structure here. And right now it's just one monolithic element here for the menu items, but we can drag something down here and create a new layer. And we can adjust the width of that layer just by dragging it here. So I'm going to try and get it around 4%, and then we can click edit and give it an exact number. So let's give it 4%. And then we can add different items to it. So we need to choose the type of the item. This one's going to be an image. It's going to have our logo actually. And I'm going to add an image to our project library here in the general images folder. Going to go up to File and Upload since we don't have anything uploaded yet. And let's choose our logo right here. That's added. Let's check it here and click Add Selected. And there's our image all set up and saved there. So let's click Save. And now we're going to add another element, another layer to show the name of our system. So let's drag that down and click Edit on that. This one's going to be about 12% wide, and it's going to be actually a value, not a title. So this will allow us to enter whatever text we want. And we're going to call this Recruitment System, since that is the name of this system. Like so. And then we just need to save the changes. So that's everything on the left side of the menu. Now we need to add an option on the right side of the menu to give kind of a greeting to the user and include the username so they know who they're logged in as. So set the width of that. That's going to be about 17%. And we need to select the type here, but we can also add more elements here. Click the Add button. One is going to be the date, so that's the current date. We can leave that as is. And the second one is going to be a value. And that's just going to say welcome and then the username. So we're going to use the square brackets and the user login variable right there. That will be gotten when the user logs in. And so now everything's set up with this. Let's go ahead and generate our code. And once that's generated, we can go ahead and run our login application and log in and see this all set up. And once this is done, we should be done with our recruitment system. Okay, so there it is. And our text is a little bit dark. We could change that if we wanted to a different font or a different color. But that's everything with our recruitment system. We've now built that completely. So thank you for sticking with us through these 3 videos. I hope it was helpful for you. And I hope you saw a lot of what Scriptcase can do for you and your development.